The first college football playoff ranking poll is out for 2024. I'm going to dive into those teams in just a moment. Get my thoughts on a few of them. Okay, more than a few. I'm lying there. But first, welcome to the channel. I'm Brian. I am glad that you're here. If you're new, I hope you'll subscribe because it is free. Some of the sweetest words in the English language, free. So I hope you will do that. Drop a comment. No matter who you pull for. How about you pull for them? I'll pull for them if you let me know who you pull for. I'll tell you who I'm sorry, I just went pure redneck there. But you know who I pull for, but I do talk about other college football teams. So if you like that sort of stuff, pass it along to your buddies, your friends who likes talking college football, and let them know about the show. Hope they'll subscribe as well. Let's dive right in. The College Football Playoff Committee dropped their first ranking. So before I tell you who's in and so on, let's just kind of get this out of the way. Everybody pretty much knows who's like in the top 5. But the idea is to figure out how the playoff committee is approaching multiple loss teams versus, in other conferences versus the SEC versus the Big Ten, etc. So that's what we want to see. So let's get right to the poll. Ranked number 1, the number 1 team in the country for Week 10. This is the first college football playoff for 2024. The number 1 team in the country, no shock. The Oregon Ducks. Number 2, Ohio State. Georgia at number 3. Miami at number 4. Texas rounds out number 5. Let's go 6 to 10. We have Penn State, Tennessee, Indiana, BYU, and Notre Dame at number 10. Who's at number 11? Alabama, Boise State, SMU, Texas A&M at 14, and at number 15, LSU. 16 through 20 is Mississippi, Ole Miss, Iowa State, Pittsburgh, Kansas State, Colorado. And then 20 through 25 is Washington State, Louisville, Clemson, Missouri, and Army. And that is the first college football playoff top 25. Okay, let's talk about this for a second. This is not going to be a long video. The top 4, we kind of expect, right? Oregon, Ohio State, Georgia, Miami. It's kind of a duh. Oregon hasn't lost to anyone. They beat the number 2 team in the country. Georgia struggled with a bad Florida team. It took Florida. And listen, I think Georgia's a really good football team. Not talking trash to you here, Georgia. You beat the crap out of my Tigers. I mean, it is what it is. I do wonder what happens if DJ Lagway stays healthy. Anyway, but I think had that not went down like it did, you may have stayed at number 2. Who cares? You're in the top. You're in the top 4. Miami at number 4. The Hurricanes are winning. Okay, the Hurricanes are winning, but just like I had to say to my Clemson team, ask this question: when you play a really good football team, what happens? We don't know that about Miami yet. Why? Because they haven't played a good football team. But if they're in the top 4, if they go to the ACC championship and they win it, guess what? They're automatically in. They get a bye, etc. Number 5, Texas. Texas, they lost to Georgia at home. It was a really commanding win for Georgia. Going to Austin, doing what they did, they're still inside the top 12. Penn State coming off that loss to Ohio State at home after they were up 10-0. Penn State, number 6. Tennessee, a team that they have 4 more games left. They beat Alabama. I want to say they have Georgia to play soon. I can't remember their schedule. It may be even this week. I can't remember. So, please, man, just give me a little wiggle room. Tennessee at number 7. Indiana, 9-0 for the first time in program history. Curt Cignetti, he went out and got the quarterback from Ohio. Not Ohio State, but from Ohio, and the kid can play. They haven't played anyone big, but here's the deal. They are winning their games. So that's all you can ask. BYU, this is a team who they're playing in the Big 12. I have sat and wondered, when will BYU wet the bed? And if I'm a BYU fan, I'm like, who is this guy? Who does he think he is? Folks, listen, it's no offense. I do this even to my own team. BYU is just continuing to win. What they need to do, continue to win. They beat SMU. So if SMU continues to win, they're going to be in the ACC championship. So that makes them look even better. So BYU just continues to win. Notre Dame losing to Northern Illinois. That was, week 2 after that win against Texas A&M? They're trying to put that behind them. Their schedule is extremely manageable. They play Florida State, or the artist formerly known as Florida State, this week, and they're like a 26-point favorite. The only ranked team that Notre Dame has on their schedule for the rest of the season, drum roll please, Army, Alabama, 6-2, folks. 6-2. This is where things get interesting, because you have the undefeated teams like Oregon, Miami, Indiana, BYU, and then you get to Notre Dame, who is 7-1, and then 6-2, Alabama at number 11. The playoff were played today. No, I know it's not, but if it were, you would have a 2-loss Alabama team in front of a bunch of teams that have 1 loss. Rounding out the top 12 is Boise State at 7-1. A lot of people have been talking about, hey, this team can play. I mean, they barely lost to the number 1 team in America. So Boise State is more tested when it comes to playing a top-notch football team, and you have an idea that if they were to play, I don't know, the number 1 team in America, how they would respond. They almost beat Oregon, folks. Notre Dame can't say that. BYU can't say that. Indiana can't say that. Penn State just found out this past weekend, and Miami can't say that. Now, I know if you're part of those fan bases, you're going to think I'm the Antichrist. That's perfectly fine with me. I just need you to put this chip in your left hand before you make any transactions. I have this thing. I'm just kidding. I shouldn't kid about that. But listen, I get it. But Boise State has played. They have played the number 1 team in the country and almost beat them. So Boise State at number 12, I can buy that. Outside of it, you see SMU, see Texas A. And this is where it gets crazy, y'all. This is what I've been warning you about. The whole SEC beating up on one another. Then you have SMU at 13, the ACC team. And then after that, you have 1, 2, 3 SEC teams, and they all have 2 losses. And they're right there at 14, 15, and 16. You think that another 2-loss SEC team couldn't sneak into the top 10 or top 12 for the playoff? Just telling you, folks, gird yourself. It's coming. I'm going to get into the comments sections real quick. Rustastic. Hey, Brian, I wrote you in today for Comptroller. Please, I hope you did. Comptroller. Drew Garrett. Does Clemson have a chance? No. They blew that this past weekend. Unfortunately, this past weekend. Galaxy King. We played Louisville. Yes, Louisville is not a bad team. They are a good team, but they're not like an Oregon. They're not, and they beat Clemson. I mean, if the zing is like, well, they beat y'all. Yeah, I agree with you. Clemson shouldn't have lost to Louisville based on the talent that Clemson has on their team. Goes back to coaching. Brom can coach his brains out. Brom's a very good coach. Louisville is not a bad football team, but I get what it's saying. Here, this is stupid. My fine dining rankings: deer stew, fried fox, steamed and shelled armadillo, raccoon casserole, poached carp trimmings, whatever the crap that is, poached carp gizzards, You've caught a carp recently, I see. Vegan burgers and lastly, shrimp. Thank you, Eric. That's Eric from the Sawmill Shop who built that beautiful sign that's down here that I haven't rehung, but it's great. So, wow. Jimmy Jam. Right now, only Miami is in the playoffs, no SMU. You're right. Kaysen and Chloe Vids. Clemson not playoffs. Shocker. Yeah, I know. Boise almost lost to UNLV, as well as Boise has some flaws. I agree with you. They do. They were playing like they had in the fourth quarter, like they had the lead, not Louisville. Still can't get over it. Yeah. You and about 80,000 other people. Yeah. All right, folks. That is the first college football playoff rankings of 2024. And if you look at it, just quickly, if you look over this, you're seeing a lot of legacy football teams in there. Ohio State, Georgia, Miami, Tennessee, Penn State, Notre Dame, Alabama, and then you have teams like Boise State that's getting the nod. BYU, Indiana definitely. I know BYU has had some good teams here and there. I think they won the national championship in 1984. My memory serves me correct. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I know that BYU has had good football teams, but over the past 20 years, they've struggled here and there. They would have a good team here and there, but they haven't been dominant. This team looks like they can break the playoff, but they're not. They're not a historic team that has been consistent like an Ohio State, Georgia, etc. Indiana in there, that's interesting. Notre Dame, they're not a bad football team whatsoever. It's just interesting to see them in there because there's just something about them I just scratching my head about. But anyway, we are seeing teams from the Big Ten and the SEC in there. Of course, the biggest nod would probably be the 6-2, but 2-loss Alabama team at 11. But you do have some teams that they're giving the nod to. So maybe they're trying to be nice and balanced here at the beginning. Maybe they'll change up later. Folks, y'all take care of yourself. I hope you've subscribed. If you haven't, it is free. The channel is growing. I do appreciate everybody who's passing this along to their friends who doesn't. They don't even pull for Clemson because I talk about other football teams. I do appreciate it. Y'all have a good evening as always. Go Tigers.